Okay, let's hope third time's a charm. Senior Pride here. This morning I'm going to discuss LGBTQIA2 seniors and our experiences. Boomers were the generation that fought against the suppression of and laws against homosexuality. We recognized that sexuality cannot be legislated. So for us boomers who are now older, wiser, and proudly out, what is life like in 2024? First off, let's run the numbers. Increasing percentages of people have come out with each generation. For us boomers, it's about 4%. For millennials, it's about 7%. And it gets higher with each generation. However, for the silent generation, it's around 2%. And decreases with every previous generation. It's important to remember that for boomers and before, we remember when our very lives were legislated as illegal. The ever-increasing numbers make sense, and it is very heartwarming. So let's start at the beginning. Imagine being 14, just entering a boarding school for kids with learning disabilities in a foreign country, because where you come from, there is no special education. You're 14 and you already know you're a lesbian, but it's 1978. The common perception at that time was simply, if she meets a nice boy, she'll figure it out. Or, she's a little older, she just needs to meet a nice man. At that time, there are no role models, and your parents and older sister get their jollies making horrible comments about anyone they think might be gay or lesbian. Your father is a well-respected psychiatrist and has filled your head with the idea that homosexuality is a mental illness. What would you do? That was my reality, and I did the only thing I could at that age. I dated boys. It took me almost 2 more decades to reach the point where I simply couldn't live that lie anymore. What did my mother say when I told her? I was wondering when you'd tell me. So her attitude had changed, and she knew all along. Just so we're clear, coming out was one of the best things I ever did. I felt free, I felt alive, I was myself. It was wondrous. And here's where we meet the reality for seniors who are part of the LGBTQ community in 2024. So for those of us living in seniors' homes, it feels like returning to a time of homophobia and, quite frankly, hate. Heterosexism is the attitude of the day. Heterosexuality or asexuality is the only perceived state, and it's assumed by staff and residents alike. Given the societal stereotype that older people are asexual, this is hardly surprising. It is, however, strange that fellow seniors who grew up in that era of change, of demand for change, and who were part of that group that demanded change, suddenly have no idea that there are gay and lesbian and trans people among them. For men, both staff and residents alike, they seem to revert to the stereotypes held by our parents or the silent generation that is a mental illness, that we're not normal, that we don't exist, but we just need a good man for women. For women, they tend to spout some religious ignorance, which is very disturbing. Imagine that you're not male or female, that you're another gender, or that you're trans. You are even more burdened than those of us who are gay, lesbian, or bi. It seems that for those living in their own homes, the situation is nominally better. However, they are still subjected to the idea that older persons are asexual. Family and in-home support workers may simply ignore reality, even in the face of long-term same-sex relationships. Members of the LGBTQ plus community whose partners or spouses pass on have to deal with ignorance from the medical community, funerary services, family, houses of worship, and so forth. Young people presume that we don't understand their sexuality, and yet they ignore ours. So let's change this. Don't assume that seniors are asexual, that our same-gender partners are suddenly friends, that we don't experience homophobia and transphobia. We do. And some of it comes from the younger people who have benefited from our fight for freedom. We do matter. Remember that. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please hit subscribe and explore. Remember, to be a senior is to be proud. Thanks.